competition that we have organized for the first year students. Uh, for this competition, we have Aditya Meher as our referee and PK Sir as the judge. Now, I would like Aditya to explain to you all the rules of this competition. But before that, we'll first have round one after Aditya is done explaining the rules. And then we'll have round two. So while the round one is going on, round two people are supposed to exit and you all will be informed on the group whenever you're supposed to join. So over to you, Aditya.
Thank you, Sakshi. Good evening, everyone. I'm Aditya Meher, the referee for today's debate. Before we start, I would like to explain to you the rules of this event. Each debate session will have two teams, the proposition and the opposition. We first start with the opening statements of the proposition, followed by those of the opposition. The speakers will get 3 minutes each to make their opening statements. Then we move on to the rebuttal round, which is initiated by the opposition asking a direct question to the proposition, after which a back and forth of questions takes place for 12 minutes. Note that you must answer all questions directly and not heckle or go off tangents. You may then be given a chance to make closing remarks based on the educator's discretion. Finally, you'll get 2 minutes each to make closing statements first with the proposition going first, followed by the opposition. Note that the persons making the closing statements and the opening statements must be different. And you must keep in mind that no new points must be brought up by either side during the closing statements. With that, we'll begin. So I'd like to call upon the first group to begin.
One second, Aditya. Before we start, want to get some idea about you guys. So, how many of you have never been in any like formal debate sessions before? Just speak up. Okay. For the ones, almost everybody, I suppose. Okay, so these are formal affairs. You have to stick to the rules and stipulations that Aditya is part of. Okay. So there'll be two people in every team. There'll be a side which is supposed to propose the motion that has been shared with you, a side that's going to oppose it. Side proposition cannot make any points in side opposition's favor unless you just want to give away your points to them. So be very careful about how you're presenting your points across. In debate lingo, we call these things constructives. You want to build constructives that help your side of this debate. You don't want to give away any kind of uh, avenues for side opposition or side proposition, whatever side you're on, to just come in and demolish your constructives. Frame everything that way. Also, certain hard and fast rules. So one person from each team gets to make the opening statement, the opening speech, and the other person has to give the closing speech. That's a hard and fast rule. We don't deviate from that. Further, Aditya's word as far as time limits, as far as stopping when he asks you to, as far as just toning your constructors down, if it feels like you're heckling, his word is final. If at any point of time I feel like you are continuing on in spite of him telling you to be quiet or enough, like let's hear from the other team now, all of that, if that's happening, I'll be deducting marks. Okay. Lastly, this is a formal debate. You will be observed in terms of the language you use, in terms of the thought process you employ. If you have a lot of informal lingo, if you use a lot of slang, a lot of terms that don't make sense, your scores will be deducted. If your constructors are not really going anywhere, you're just stalling for time and so on and so forth, that's something that we'll be able to figure out very easily. We've been doing this for quite, like I've been doing this for like 6, 7 years by this point. Vyom and Aditya are like well established in the month circuit. So they'll be pointing things out. Please listen to them when they speak up. Okay. And one more time, it's a debate, it's not an argument. So just make sure that you're putting forward the points that work in your favor. Do not try to bring the other team down. Bring their constructors down if you can, but do not point fingers. And especially don't get agitated. It's very easy to just get agitated about these things and keep going on and on and on. Avoid that. Make your point and be quiet. Take things as slowly as you can. Don't try to use the opening speech or the closing speech just to push in as many points as you can. Come up with your strongest ones and stick to those. Cool. Any questions that you all have before we start? Okay, so Aditya, once again, just repeat the time limitations that these people will have, and then we can start.
Yeah, so for the opening statements, we have 3 minutes each for the proposition and the opposition. Then we have the rebuttal round, which is about 10 to 12 minutes. And then for the closing statements, we have 2 minutes each for each speaker. And it goes without saying you have to keep your camera on at all times
Yeah,
during the
yeah,
debate.
yeah. And if at any point of time anybody has any network issues, we do have a buffer for that. But if we exceed that time buffer, we're going to move on. We don't keep waiting for one person's internet to come back. Okay, there's a 2 minute buffer in case anybody's network has serious issues. But beyond that, we just try to continue on with that particular group. So if in team opposition one member just suddenly disappears and it doesn't come back in 2 minutes, then side opposition is going to be handled by the person who stays. So both teams need to be working within themselves in tight coordination. Okay, right. So Sakshi, if you're starting, how much prep time do you want to give the first team? Because they just found their motions like 5 minutes ago, right?
I think we can begin at 7:45. Does that work?
Maybe too soon. They won't have had any prep time for that. Like hardly any. Let's give them another 10 minutes. It starts at 7:55 sharp.
Okay, seven.
Okay? So the other groups, you all can exit the room for now. Group one, the first group, as in the 4 members, please stay here. You can work on your motions. You can talk with each other on phones and so on and so forth. And then at 7:55, we'll tell you that it's time to start. So you have 12 minutes to play. Start.
Aditya, can you please repeat the rules for Darshini? She was in an IIC, right? So she has missed that.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll be going with the Oxford style debate where we have two sides, the proposition and the opposition. The proposition gets both sides get 3 minutes to make opening statements, where the proposition goes first, followed by the opposition. Then we have a rebuttal round where the opposition asks a direct question to the proposition, followed by a back and forth, which is sustained for about 10 to 12 minutes. You may not heckle or go off a tangent, and you must answer each question directly. Finally, we have a session of closing statements where each speaker gets 2 minutes, again with the proposition followed by the opposition. Here, no new points may be made by either side, and the speaker must be different from the one who made the opening statements.
All right, Darshini, can you please leave the room now because now we'll be beginning with the round one.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Do you have any doubts?
No, no.
All right, so join with your teammate, that is Gia.
Yeah,
We'll be informing you on the group. Meanwhile, I have put the motion for round two on the group. You can discuss with Gia about how you are going to counter this.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Sanya, do you have a question? Please lower your hand if you don't.
Can we begin now?
Yeah, let's start.
Yeah, it will be okay.
Please turn your
All
cameras
right.
on.
Sanya and Kshitij.
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, Aditya, please begin.
Okay, so I'll be starting the timer for the first for the big opening arguments right now. You'll get a warning at one when there's only 1 minute left. So I'll start. Yeah. So you may start now.
Should I start then? I'm answering the opening statement.
Yeah, you can start. Your proposition opening statement.
Yes, so the topic that I'm going to discuss on today is the idea of spending billions of dollars on space travel missions. Is that idea justified? I believe that the idea is completely justified when it comes to innovations in fields regarding metals and alloys, to biology or medicine. The theoretical as well as the practical applications are many as of now. There are many real life applications like ceramic coatings and smoke detectors, as well as crash resistant glasses. The materials that are tested in space, they are tested in a condition that is completely unearthly, such as conditions in vacuum or conditions that do not require gravity. There were many experiments that were performed, especially on the International Space Station, that involved testing innovative materials that prevent bacterial growth. And such studies, with more years to come, will have a considerable potential for public health and safety, especially with the kind of pandemic that is going on. I think we all know how important it is to gain as much information as we can regarding that. There are many conditions wherein long duration missions that are tough on the human body. Like astronauts, they suffer a loss of muscle mass and bone density, and wear and tear on the circulation system due to more time that they spend on space. So, if we monitor them in space after they return to Earth, there's a chance to learn about the effects of aging and support research into conditions like osteoporosis, etc. There are many theoretical applications as well. Like for a large period of time, it was believed that there were only three states of matter. However, there was a fourth state of matter that was discovered, which was plasma, and it could only be discovered once we understood what really goes on in the sun. And using all the theoretical applications regarding that, we have made many optically arranging applications as well as plasma 3Ds, etc. We have come to know that there may be many states of matter that we are not even aware of that may have many medical applications. So that is why I believe in in one go why spending billions of dollars on space research is not only justified but also important.
All right, that's it, right? Okay, so now we have the opposition side making their opening statements. As I said, I'll be setting a 3 minute timer and telling you, I think, 5 seconds in advance. All right, and you'll be getting a reminder at 1 minute when there's only 1 minute left. Okay, so opposition, you may start.
Okay, so hello. So for today's debate topic, we have investing $1 billion for space missions is justified. Actually, me and my colleague Kshitij, we just want to oppose this very statement because I feel, to be honest, investing money in space research, space travel, everything is actually one of the best investment mankind can do, and it's actually a huge step towards technological advancement. But I feel if we focus more on space, outer space, and also stuff, we are neglecting our very own planet. Now, planet, and then we have many other more problems which I guess are extremely prominent. So yes, I guess now I would like to say this very thing for the opening statement, and I guess there are more points coming in the further process of the debate. So I would just like to focus on the. I would just like to focus on the surface. That's it.
All right. So now we start the rebuttal round, where the opposition must ask uh, the proposition a question, and the proposition must answer it directly.
Yes. So, um, Deepika, my question is for you. So, you said when astronauts travel into space, there is a lot of um, you know there happen a lot of changes in their bodies. You know, uh, they suffer a lot of diseases also, a lot of anxiety issues, depression. And your point of view is that you hope to analyze all of this. So my question is, do you really think the amount of money you invest and the amount of pain the astronauts do feel in this procedure is justified for the growth of humanity? Like, is this really the definition of humanity?
All right. So, the definition of humanity when it comes to talking about situations like anxiety and depression, uh, if a person is stressed, then that person might suffer from these mental health issues. And I think that is not really focusing on the bigger topic. That is, if we see astronauts in space, how their body changes due to lack of pressure, due to lack of gravity, and due to lack of basically air around them, how that affects the body, we will be able to understand medical situations wherein a person is suffering from breathing problems, whether a person is suffering from is allergic to a specific disease or is going through a specific disease. Like I mentioned, osteoporosis, it is looking into the effect of aging. And when we see astronauts returning from space, we see all of these changes inside their body due to lack of pressure. If we are able to create or replicate that situation here on Earth, we'll be able to provide many medical benefits.
I just like to interject here. So even though side opposition has targeted a question towards one of the team members from side proposition, the other team member is free to join in if he wants to. Yeah.
So can
I
I
still
ask a
feel
question?
that my I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I still feel that my question is unanswered. My question was, are you actually encouraging astronauts to go in outer space so that you can analyze problems which exist on Earth and you have specimens to analyze them on Earth itself? So why are you spoiling so many lives?
I believe like I would like to join with the statement of my teammate here. It is we are doing even the astronauts also know that they are doing this for the better cause. They are doing this for the like 7.5 billion people on the earth, and if they are willingly ready to do it and contribute to the sciences for the exploration and development of our human race, then I believe it is completely justified.
Actually, now I have another question.
It's fine.
And
The
I believe it's our
proposition's
turn.
turn to ask a question.
I would like to counter the my opposing team and also ask them a questions that humans require various natural resources or also man-made resources to survive, and for them to be able to survive, we on our planet, that is Earth, we don't have infinite resources that we can rely on. We will need to in the coming future we will need to migrate to another planets or another system in order to be able to gather those resources. And also there can be a very good probability that the resources which we will be able to find by investing in such a space exploration programs for the greater good of the human race, we would be able to also we will also be able to develop the various cures for the diseases required, such as cancer. And also we will be able to by studying the people who are going to on the space exploration, we will be able to study them and increase the life expectancy of humans by a significantly greater margin. So, what I will my final question is, what will the opposition team will give us the solutions to uh, for the for this to happen, as the resources cannot be infinite, and you would need to move to another options, available options.
Okay, so you are saying resources aren't infinite, and then you need some another option. It's like we can say you need some planet B, like that's what I think. But shouldn't you focus on your very own planet then? I guess that's more important. I mean, there are, if you're talking about resources and stuff, so I guess rather than space, we should focus on, like, what's happening on our. Okay. Mm, I'm sorry. So actually, I think when you're talking about infinite resources, I feel we should focus on our planet. I mean, we should invest on, like, creating a better solution for it, rather than investing on space, because that's something which is more prominent. Like, that's what I feel. Because if we invest more on it, we have a quick solution. Now, if anything bad happens, now we don't have an option, like, we are just. We don't have a quick solution. Actually, we can just go to another planet or stuff, and like anything like that. So I guess we have to start with step one, because that's extremely important. Even you said it's like something related to cancer, like, a solution for cancer and stuff. But then I feel we should focus on we should actually focus on the very um,
I
actually
would
I
like
think.
to join in with my colleague here. So, space exploration, while you're right, um, it is an opportunity for us to explore new things, and we do not have infinite resources. Correct. But when we do go ahead with space exploration, we do end up depleting the resources by a long, 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 long margin. You asked me the question, how do I expect to counter your point and answer your question regarding how we can deal with the problem of limited resources? I believe it's by wasting not a lot of resources. And I believe when you don't waste a lot of resources, you do not waste fuel on engines which may or may not fly. You do not waste fuel on engines which may or may not reach their targets. We all know what happened with Mangalyaan. We all know what happened with Chandrayaan, and that's just in India. There's a lot of failures, stories of failures in other countries as well. India just started. Other countries like China, Russia, US, they have been at it for a long, long time. So I believe they have been wasting a lot of human resources for a very, very long time. Now, these were not justified, these actions, they were not justified, I believe, because while they were trying to achieve the greater good, they were ending up wasting the resources under the name of finding new resources. So how justified is that? I personally am not, you know, I'm not aware of that.
I would like to counter here, as you said that they.
Okay, so I think we're done with the counters. I think it's the proposition's time to ask. Opposition's time to ask a question.
Yes. So the topic does focus on the amount of money that is spent on space explorations. Ironically, we haven't touched on that. And I believe it's because the proposition cannot answer the question, because there is no justification for the relentless and so exorbitant spending of money on such a futile objective. So, my question is, This is data from 2004. So the GDP of USA was 11.8 trillion, and the amount of percent of that GDP spent on outer space explorations was 0.14. And since then, it has just skyrocketed. In 2006, it was 0.18, and in 2009, it was 0.29. So, is there any explanation for the increasing amount of money that has been spent without sufficient results?
So I would like to provide an answer for that. It would be a futile attempt if it were not. It would be a waste of money if it didn't have a good amount of advantage. When it comes to space exploration, it has always been a question of doubt when it comes to the astronauts themselves. But when it comes to the interest that they have, they are aware. Um, okay. They are aware of the risks that they are taking. They are aware of the resources that human beings have and do not have. To answer your question directly, if it is worth the money, we are going in a completely different environment that we do not know what it will provide us. And till date, there have been many failed missions. There have been missions that have proved many, many different things. For years and years, we would believe that water was only present on Earth, but now we are all aware that water is actually present on the moon itself. This big discovery led us to believe that there will be many raw materials that may be present. When we are talking about resources on Earth, why we are not using them, why we are spending money for a space shuttle to go somewhere else where we do not know whether it will reach or not. To answer that, the raw materials that are present on Earth, the fossil fuels, let's be real, all of that has been going on a descent. And if we do not use strict action now, fossil fuels are going to go way down. We cannot directly have electric cars on the roads. We cannot directly implement that everywhere. If we figure out many raw materials outside of space, we may be able to use them to create something that actually does not create pollution, and we can have them in abundance until we figure out another plan
And also,
to
I would like to add up to the point of my teammate that if we would have not invested so much amount of money in the space exploration program, we could not have been able to develop the satellites and also the imaging techniques, and there will not have been any Google Maps, which I believe millions of people use daily to navigate through the roads.
All right, so that's all the questions we'll have for this round. KK sir, do you have any? Do you want to let them give their closing remarks for this round?
Let's not. Let's move on to the closing speeches.
All right. Okay, so now we move on to the closing statements. Note that the closing person doing the closing statements must be different from the one who gave the opening statements. With that said, I call upon the speaker of the proposition to come and deliver closing statements.
So I would like to begin with my concluding statement that we are humans, and as a humans, we have which I would like to call a virtue, which is curiosity. And when there is curiosity, you have to do and you have to go out and explore other things. And I believe that at some point of time, with not 100% certainty, but yeah, with maximum probability, I can predict that the resources in the planet Earth will get over, and we will have to look for other options, which will be only available in the space, and we will have to go there when the earth will become uninhabitable. We won't have anywhere to live. Thus we have to embrace the space exploration programs. There has been now 50 years from till which the many greater countries like US and China have started space exploration programs, which have have done benefits for many people around the globe, and this also creates strong past record and also ensures our confidence that we will have positive impacts on humans when we are doing space exploration. And I would like to wrap up my concluding statement here. Thank you.
Yes. So I would just
Yeah.
first of all like to thank the judge and the referee. Next, moving on to the closing statement. Um, so a lot of money has been spent on these space explorations already. Like the proposition said, and rightly proved, some of it is justified, but not all of it. How do you justify human lives being lost for no cause? There was Kalpana Chawla, and she was just one of them. There have been millions and millions others. That's just not all. I raised a point that humanity is not this. Humanity doesn't stand for growth, it stands for understanding other humans and staying with them in a very peaceful and nice environment. Right now, we have a missile or a gun aimed at our heads, and we are trying to run away, and we are trying to find a bigger gun to aim at the one who is holding the gun at us. I suggest why not try to delay it? Why not try to just make up for it, live as long as we can in a much, much more peaceful world than what we are now? Because growth, which does not return any moral basis, which does not have any moral ethics to it, it doesn't stand any value. Things like Google Maps, yes, they are worth it, but not really, because that's the only useful thing that's happened up till now. We found water, but so what? It didn't help us, did it? So I would like to leave it up to the judge to actually decide on what happens up till now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, teams, for your for the enriching discussion. If KK sir wants to say something, floor is open.
Okay, Siddhish, why don't you just laugh the way you want to? Let's just get that out of the system, right? Let's. Yeah, cool. So, okay, considering that you only had like maybe 20 minutes of prep time, this is seriously good content. Okay. Both sides bought the main thrust of the motion into the conversation at some point. My only criticism as of now would be that that point by which the motion became clear to both parties came in very late, you know, that should have been established in the very opening statements. Like, so if side proposition is all about how spending this money is justified, right? You got there eventually with a bunch of examples, right? That should have been front and center, I feel. Anyway, side proposition had like the cake cut out for them. That's what I felt. Side opposition had a bunch of opportunities that they did not grab, I feel. It kind of became clear once again at the end of, because the argument from side opposition that I was expecting was we should not spend so much money on space exploration because here are 10 other things we could be spending money on instead. Right? That kind of established itself near the end of it, but it came too late, I feel. Even so, good stuff. If this is your first debate, I feel like for Deepika and Shitish, that's not the case. If it is, then absolutely
That
good.
is.
Oh, that's good stuff, man. Yeah. For Arya as well, good points. For Sania as well, very good points in the beginning. But you could have utilized your entire opening speech time. You did not. You ended prematurely. So as a result, there were again good constructors that you could have brought up that could not enter the conversation. Yeah. Good stuff though. Yeah. I'm done. Aditya.